Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I appreciate you dropping by. Also appreciate your comments and your emails. Keep them coming. You can email me at counselorscouch101 at mail.com. Counselorscouch101 at mail.com. Always fun to hear what people are thinking, and it's enlightening. An interesting question came up yesterday. A lady asked me, she said, when is it appropriate to ask someone, if they want marriage and family and children and all that? And I said, well, we're going to have to back up on that particular question, and I'll tell you why. There's an old joke. It says, what causes divorce? Marriage. Marriage causes divorce if you're married to the wrong person. That's what that's all about. Now, regarding whether or not somebody wants a family, a wife and kids and all that stuff, when is it appropriate to ask? Well, considering that everybody is meeting these days online and their online applications, etc., pretty much people are supposed to state their intentions when they go onto that application, when they sign up and fill out the paperwork and all that. They say what their intentions are. So even before you've met the person, hopefully they've told the truth about what their goal is, to meet someone and date, to have casual hookups, or to find a partner, get married, and have children and family and all that. Usually that's what they say. They respond to that question. But you also have to check out and figure out whether or not that person is telling the truth, right? Because they may even say they want it, maybe they even believe they want it, but when it comes down to it, they won't take that step. They won't marry someone, and there's a good reason why. I know I'm digressing, but a lot of people, particularly males, are reluctant to marry because of the devastation, the financial devastation of divorce. And they're just figuring that it's so horrible they don't want to do it. You want to be a life partner? Do you want to have children and all that? Sure, fine, we'll do that. But I don't want to get married because I don't want that problem coming up in the future, right? I don't want to be destroyed. And neither would you want to do that either, I'd hope. So they're reluctant to marry, even though they would like to have children and a family, right? So that's an issue that needs to be figured out. But returning to the question, when is it appropriate? Well, you can ask that question and hopefully receive an honest answer even before you meet the person. Now, the question doesn't become whether or not someone wants a family and home and all that kind of stuff. The real question is not whether or not you want to do those things. The question is whether or not you want to make a family with me. That's the thing right there. It's not just, do you want a family? Do you want a wife and kids and a picket fence and all that? It's a question of whether or not you want to do that with that person. That's really what's going on when someone says to me, when's it appropriate to ask that question? A lot of people, they're moving quickly into relationships, right? It's like first thing you do is have sex and then you find out the person's name, right? Stuff like that. And I think it has a negative effect on folks over time. At least that's what all the pundits say down the line. And I like to hear from ladies whether or not they think that's true. And I don't want to hear from ladies who are 19, 20, and 21, 22, because they need life experience to determine whether or not that had a good effect or a negative effect over time, right? A lot of people feel that they're damaged by having too many partners too young, and that it affects your relationship down the line. Other people say it matures you, it gives you experience, and you're better able to cope with problems in marriage. So I'd like to hear from folks out there with some experience in life as to whether or not that's a good idea and why. But the real question back to it is, when is it right to ask someone about whether they want to be married and have kids and all that? Yes, you should ask it even before you get into dating, if your goal is to find a partner, get married, have kids and a family and all that. If that's your goal, state it out front. Why would you say anything else, right? This is where folks get into trouble in relationships and they get divorced after 5 years. It's because they weren't completely honest at the beginning. They didn't say the things that they wanted out of the relationship, right? Or they were trying to put a good front on it. Everybody says they were behaving the best they could because they didn't want to wreck a potential good relationship. And I say it's better to know before you get into the relationship that there's going to be a problem than to wait and then have the problem and have to experience it, and particularly bad if there are children involved and they are affected by the poor choice, right? I always encourage premarital counseling for any couple. I do not care how old you are, how many times you've been married, what kind of life experience you have. Go talk with somebody. Preferably somebody who has some experience in doing premarital counseling, because what you're looking for is any potential problems that could arise down the way, things that you can't see right now because we're caught up in the emotion and the joy of being in a relationship and all that. We're not seeing the potential problems that could come up. There was a book once, and I can't remember the title, but they would give it to couples, and they'd have each one would fill out the book, and the book was just a series of questions, and they were supposed to write their answers in to all these different questions in the book, and then they would compare their answers and see whether or not there are going to be any potential problems in the future. It's been suggested that the way to tell whether or not a marriage has a good chance of surviving and becoming a good marriage is how people solve problems together, how they deal with problems. If they clash over problems, it's probably going to be difficult for them to have a wonderful, loving relationship going in time, across time. But if they can't solve problems, if they can solve problems and they sit down and talk about everything and work things out each time, they have a good chance of having a successful marriage. So the question, when is it a good time to ask if a person's wants a family and kids and all that? You can ask that question at any time. You shouldn't be shy of it. If that's your intention in life, you should put it out front. I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking to get married. I want a family. Put it up front. And if a person is not there, you can run off with them and spend the weekend or whatever it is you do. You can enjoy dating and being in someone's company, etc., etc. But that is not going to be your partner, and you should recognize that early on. With the particular question that I was asked the other day, we explored it, and I said you could easily waste 5 years waiting to find out the answer to that question, whether or not you want to have a family and kids and all that. And like I say, the real question is not whether or not you want to have a family and kids, it's whether or not you want to have a family and kids with me. The person's asking, like, am I going to be your partner? I've seen this happen many, many times where you meet a great woman, she's really good, got a lot of fine qualities, a great guy, provider, honest, upright, and all that other things, but they don't match, right? There's nothing wrong with either one of them. It's just not a good match. And that's one of the things that dating used to sort of try to figure out. If you run into things that are like what we used to call a deal breaker, right? Okay, if that's what the situation is, then, I can't possibly be happily married to you. Then you need to find that out before you get married, not after you get married, because what causes divorce? Marriage. But marriage to the wrong person. That's really the answer to that question. What causes divorce? Marriage to the wrong or a wrong person. Not that they are a bad person, they're just not right for you, all right? So yes, you can ask the question up front. You don't even have to know the person, just check their bio and etc. and see what their intentions are. That's okay. But then you got to find out whether or not it's going to be a good match for you. Sometimes folks will string you along because they're getting something out of the relationship in the here and the now, but they don't really see a future with you, right? And you need to figure that out. If they're not going to see you in their future and you want a family and children and all that, then you probably need to step out of that relationship and keep looking for another one, right? Also, there's also the alternative that we all don't have to be married. A lot of us want to have children. We want that experience. We want those kids. We want those grandkids, right? But if we don't find a right partner to do that with, maybe it's better not, right? Otherwise, there are a lot of single parents out there. They simply have children without getting married because they want the children, they want the grandchildren, but they don't want the partner, right? That's really quite common these days. I've had ladies say that to me, that they're looking for children and they're looking for someone to participate in the creation of those children, but they don't want to marry them, right? So there are lots of options. When should you ask if someone is wants a family and children? You can ask anytime. The question really becomes, do they want that relationship with you? And that's something you have to figure out. So I'm interested in your ideas and comments, particularly ladies, about there's a lot of promiscuity going on today. And do you think that that harms a relationship of the future, that harms a future marriage? Or does it make you a better person and wiser and more worldly? All right. Those are the types of things that come across conversations a lot. And I'd like to know what all of you are thinking. As I've said many times, I share what you share with me, and the stuff you share can benefit other people. So please feel free to go ahead and let the world know what you're thinking. Let's all grow from the experiences of others, right? So, should you ask about marriage and children? Yeah, you should. And then you need to figure out pretty quickly whether or not it's going to be a good relationship or a possible future for you. If it's not, and you want a family, you need to step out, because people will begin to see you as a couple. And if they get that vision of the two of you together in their minds, it's hard to break away and find another partner, right? So just some thoughts. Let me know what you think. I really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time, and please have a blessed week.